It's time to do my review of Power Rangers, so you know what that means. It's morphin' time! Mediocre internet reviewer! Hey everybody, Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard here. So it's here, my most anticipated movie of 2017, Power Rangers! Go, go, Power Rangers! So, before we get too crazy into it, I am a Power Rangers fan. I have multiple Megazords. I've seen all 23 seasons. I even have a Power Rangers tattoo. And a plethora of Power Rangers shirts. I love Power Rangers. I grew up with them. They are great. For as cheesy as they are, I absolutely love them. So, how does the new movie stand up to a fanboy scrutiny? Does it stand up to a actual movie? And how does it stand up to normal superhero genres? Well, let's talk about it. So Power Rangers is brought to us from Dan Ezralite, I think I said that right, who really hasn't directed much before except some movie called Project Almanac that I never heard of. So first time director, pretty much, getting a huge flagship project, big risk by the studio, let's see if it paid off. So the plot of Power Rangers is Zordon's original Power Ranger team died in defense of the Earth from Rita in the Cenozoic Age. And as Zordon was dying, he buried the power coins to be discovered by a new team. Fast forward to today, a group of teenagers with attitude find the power coins and become our new Power Rangers and must defend the Earth against Rita and her new plan to gain more power and conquer the Earth!
After 10,000 years, I'm free! It's time to conquer Earth!
So without giving too many spoilers away, that is Power Rangers in a nutshell. So let's talk about the characters, shall we? Now, first off, none of the Rangers themselves have really been in anything that I recognize. They're all pretty young and new actors, which is also kind of a interesting, take by the studio to go with a bunch of unknowns. So that's kind of cool. So let's start with the Red Ranger, Jason, played by Dekar Montgomery, I think. So this, all the characters are fairly different from their TV counterparts. So Jason is your everyman quarterback, high school hero. And Angel Grove in this version is a very small town, so him being a football star makes him like the hero of the town, and everyone knows who he is. But he injures himself pulling a prank and feels like he let the whole town down, and is then thrust into being the leader of this new team. And I think this guy does a really good job. They added some extra depth, pretty much to all the characters, but to Jason, because originally, all the Power Rangers were pretty much just all goody-goodies. They, knew all the right things to do at all the times. They're always, volunteering. They're perfect children. These ones are not. And Jason, has a lot to deal with. Feels like he has to live up to the town. He's trying to accomplish this new task of being a leader, but as a teenager being a leader of something, he doesn't know quite how to do it and falls sometimes and has some, struggles working with that. And they gave him some interesting depth, and I absolutely loved what he did, and I, can't complain. He was great. So we got the Pink Ranger, Kimberly, played by Naomi Scott, who I've been calling not Lacey Chabert. Because, yeah, they look the same. She, in this version, is your every, all-American girl, cheerleading squad, popular from everybody. Everyone knows who she is. But she's got a bit of a dark side. Not to go into spoilers, but she's got some dark side going on, giving her a little bit more depth. Although I feel like she seemed to feel the most like one of the original show members. She really felt like the original Kimberly. And I really enjoyed that. She seemed to really pull in that really big heart kind of thing, but being slightly different. Definitely the movie version, but done really well. I liked what she did a lot. And we have our Blue Ranger Billy, played by R.J. Seiler. So, of course, in the TV show, Billy is your cartoony, caricature of a nerd. And just over-the-top nerdiness, nerd. They kind of do that with this Billy, but without getting into spoilers again, they give more of a reason why he's like that. And I think it's a good explanation, and I really like what they did. And this Billy is really the heart of the team. He believes in the team the most out of all of them, and he's, kind of the best, kid of all these. He's just, trying to do the right thing all the time, and I really like Billy. I enjoyed what he did. We got the Black Ranger Zack, played by Lundy Lin. He is probably the least developed out of all the Rangers. He's a bit of the comic relief. Does a bunch of crazy stuff, but he, takes care of his mom who's sick and's worried about her, and so has some depth there, but is, about having a good time kind of thing. Kind of pulling in what Zack did from the show, but slightly different. And as you can see, he's an Asian American, but he's the Black Ranger, so they went out of their way, of course. So, like in the show, where the Black Ranger was the black guy and the Yellow Ranger was the Asian, Ranger, they purposely went out of their way to avoid that. Although they still tried to bring in different ethnicities, but they made sure to not make that mistake again. But yeah, he's probably the least developed, but I enjoyed what he did. But he was just kind of the crazy guy. And our final Ranger, Trini, played by Becky G, who's apparently some sort of pop star or something. I don't know. You kids and your rock and rolls and dubsteps. I can't keep up with that stuff. I think she has the most different than any from her TV counterpart than any of them. She is the new girl in town who's a loner, doesn't want to have friends, is really angry. Quite a different take on Trini than the show. But I think it works, and as you can tell from my explanations, a lot of these guys are different facets of, your normal high schoolers. So you can kind of link towards who you gravitate more, who has your personality, which they did in the original show. And they kind of brought it over into this, where you can kind of link to that person that feels like you. And I think they did a really good job doing that. So helping out the team, you got Alpha 5, voiced by Bill Hader. And he definitely is great. He gets down Alpha's overwhelming positivity, but doesn't have the annoying voice, isn't just constantly spouting out, catchphrases and, being goofy. He's the comic relief, but he's more subtle and he's funnier, and he did just a great job. Bill Hader always knocks it out of the park with whatever he does, and I think he did a great thing here. He had some really funny jokes, and he had some, you can tell that they were ad-libs that they threw in, and they were really solid. I like what he did. I really like this Alpha 5. A lot of people complain about the look, but I even like the look. This Alpha 5 is really awesome. So we got Zordon, played by Heisenberg himself, Bryan Cranston, and he is fantastic. So this Zordon's completely different. Even his backstory is different from the show, from what I remember at least. He is a former Ranger who, when he was on, right about to die, Alpha uploaded his mind to the ship's matrix as well as the morphing grid, to kind of keep him alive that way. And he doesn't want to be there, so he's angry. And in this version, they didn't. In the original show, I should say, they went out of their way to get the teenagers with attitude, and specifically said teenagers. This one, they're more upset that they're teenagers, and I kind of like that change. And Zordon gets frustrated with them, as you would with any teenager. So I think it built a lot more depth to Zordon. He's less godly and perfect, and is a flawed character, and I liked what they did there. And finally, we have the main villain, Rita, played by Elizabeth Banks, and she is great. She's loaded with spoilers, so I won't talk too much about her, but she's like more of a modern witch, like a feral, kind of crazy, like the witch in Left 4 Dead, if you've ever played that video game, like something more attuned to that, rather than like, a mystic wizardy style witch. And so she's a lot crazier, a lot more hands-on villain than she was in the show, a lot creepier than the show. Just a full-on total upgrade from everything that the show did, and I really like what she did. It was fantastic, a very solid villain for this movie. So what worked well about Power Rangers? Well, of course, speaking as a fan, they had all sorts of great references to the original source material, and they all landed, and I love them all. They had all the catchphrases, it's morphing time, let my monster, or make my monster grow. They had the theme song, they had Alpha going, "Ay, ay, ay!" All that stuff was in there, and it felt organic and not just ham-fisted. It was a very loving way to attach to the original source material. I think they did a great job. All these little tiny nods to like the Zeo crystals and the morphing grid, and Zords and past teams and Alien Rangers, and if you're not a fan of the show, that's all gobbledygook to you, but fans know what I'm talking about, and they all land, and they're all awesome. I was really happy with all the references. They did a fantastic job. That being said, even though they played a lot of tribute to the original show, this is a whole new story, which is also sort of tribute to how long the show has gone. If you don't know, after Power Rangers in Space, each subsequent season had a brand new team, and it didn't link to the previous season. They were all just a brand new team of Rangers. So this is something you can think of like an alternate universe version of the original Rangers. Like, it's all completely different, and they have their own mythos and storyline going, but paying homage to the original. And they struck a really good balance there. So something like the source material like that, they could have gone too much in the way of too many references and ended up screwing up what they're originally going for and not really adding much new to the table. Something like Dark Shadows would do, where they threw in just so many references that new viewers were completely lost, and it dragged down the story. And they didn't go the other side, where it's like, this ain't your grandpa's Power Rangers. So something like, Transformers did, or even Batman v Superman did, where it's just too much separation from the original source material. So I think they struck a really good balance of paying tribute, but doing their own thing. And I think it really links to where fans can come in and enjoy the references, but if you're open to it, enjoy the new story. But I think new people can come in and see just a good team superhero style movie. And I think they really struck that balance very well, and it was orchestrated amazingly. Now, your die-hard purist fans aren't going to be happy about the changes made, but real talk, your die-hard purist fans will never be happy. So there you go. The other thing I really liked is the jokes landed pretty much most of the time. There's this running gag about Krispy Kreme that shouldn't have worked, especially the amount of times that it's in it. But I found myself laughing every time they did the Krispy Kreme gag. And it was really good. Alpha, like I said, Alpha was funny. There's just some really good jokes that land and created a lot more levity. So this isn't, the gritty, like everyone's dour reboot of Power Rangers. They're keeping it fun like the show was. They just put a veneer of serious on what the show was doing, and that was amazing. And of course, one of the reasons I like Power Rangers is giant robots. I love giant robots punching things, and the Megazord looked fantastic. And they even did something that I was always a complaint from the show, and has been a problem for the show for a long time, is that they jump right to the Megazord pretty quickly in almost every version of Power Rangers. This one, they actually have a big battle scene where they're all driving their individual Zords, and I really like that little touch to give each person their own personality, their own Zords a personality. as well as, give them a chance to shine with their Zords. I really like what they did there. That was, really fun. And like I said, it's always been a complaint of the show from me. So to address that complaint in the movie was great. I loved it. Fantastic. And the other thing that works well about this movie, and it's something I've kind of thought about a lot in a post-Deadpool superhero world, is, they're making more and more superheroes geared towards adults. Which, as an adult, of course, is great, but we all became fans of superheroes as kids. And if you're not making these movies accessible to kids, then you're going to lose that audience eventually. You're not going to get new people. And I want kids to like all the superhero stuff like I did. So, and stuff like Logan and Deadpool makes it really hard for kids to like some of this stuff. And even stuff like Civil War and Winter Soldier get really into adult territory, which, maybe not interest kids as much. But I think Power Rangers struck a balance really well by having some really solid lessons about friendship and, respect and, use of power for kids, and making it fun and interesting for kids, but bumping it up enough and not talking down to kids that parents can enjoy it. And there's some jokes that are definitely parents only would get. So I think they struck a good balance there too. This is definitely something you can take your kids to. Like I went with Doug, which you've seen from my other shows, and he can't wait to show his daughter Power Rangers. Like when she's, a couple years older, he's totally going to have her watching this movie. And, this is a great movie for kids. So I definitely like that, because Power Rangers, even though I'm an old man watching Power Rangers, it's meant for kids. And I like that they kept it for kids. So that's a definite plus in its favor. All the kids in the theater that were there when I saw it seemed to really like it. So if you have kids, this is a good movie for you. But no movie is perfect. Where does Power Rangers fall short? To be honest, not a lot of places. It can get cheesy at times, but it's Power Rangers. You have to let yourself, kind of just get into that world. Everything else is really just sort of nitpicky for me. So stuff like Angel Grove in this version is a fishing town and a mining town. And I could be wrong, but I don't think any town is both of those. You got to be one or the other. Again, I could be wrong, but that was just seemed very plot contrivance to me. There's another scene where the Power Rangers are gearing up for a fight out of their uniforms, and they're all grabbing weapons. And I thought that would have been a cool nod if they all grabbed a weapon like their power weapon from the original show, but they didn't do that. And the power weapons didn't show up at all. So I think that was just, it didn't hurt the movie, but it was a missed opportunity. But really, it's just a really fun movie, and I have a hard time finding major flaws as long as you're willing to buy into this premise. Now, like I said, your die-hard, hardcore, purist fans are going to have a lot of problems with this. But I think if you take it as a new version of Power Rangers, an updated version, you'll enjoy it. And I think just if you're a superhero fan, this is going to be a solid movie. So I have a really hard time really nitpicking this movie. It, like I said, just can be sort of cheesy, and there are some plot contrivances, but really nothing that took me out of the movie. So with those minor complaints out of the way, let's talk some spoilers. Now, YouTube is getting rid of annotations, so I'm changing how I skip to spoilers. So now I just skip to this time code right here, and that will take you past the spoilers, and that's just how I got to do it now. So yeah, jump to here, but we're doing spoilers now. You ready? Ready? All right, spoiler time. So like everyone predicted, Rita is a former Ranger and is the Green Ranger. And I actually really like that change, but she was a former Ranger, which really links her more to the team, and I like that, and leads to other things in subsequent sequels, of course, because, they've planned out 6 of these, apparently. But yeah, Rita is a former Ranger, and I like that a lot, so she knows their powers and knows how to kind of use that against them. And of course the monster you see in the trailer is Goldar. He's not a flying monkey, he's just a giant monster made out of gold. But I kind of like that change. It ties into just a more grounded style rather than her, making monsters out of clay. It makes more sense that she, can control gold, and she makes a big golden monster. And that he's going after the Zeo crystals, which are a major role in this, which is fantastic. So Zeo crystals, the Zeo crystal has been broken up all over the universe, and a big part of it is in Earth, and that's what Zordon was defending. And, you know, her plan's now coming back to try and get that Zeo crystal to get more power to conquer Earth. And I liked it. It's a really cool nod to everything, and ties into this world really well. Now, the other spoiler, like I kind of hinted at in the character descriptions, I'd like to talk about now, and that's Billy and Trini. So they're kind of big things, especially Trini, but Billy is autistic in this version. And now I'm not an expert, so excuse me if I come off as ignorant about autism, but I think they really show off a high-functioning autistic very well in this movie. And it's an awesome thing, really, that an autistic kid can see an autistic superhero on the big screen and not define him, but you know why he's slightly off. And the characters in the movie don't, you know, ostracize him or make fun of him. They, you know, consider him one of their own. And I think that's really cool that kids could see that and, you know, see someone like them as a superhero. There's no autistic superheroes on the big screen. And that is amazing. I really like that they did that. To go with that, Trini, if you haven't already heard, is a lesbian in this version. But again, it doesn't define her character. It's part of her character. And I think they addressed that really well. And, you know, a little bit older kids who are starting to feel that way can see, you know, a lesbian superhero, as well as we never had a lesbian superhero on the screen. And I think that's just done really well. I like what they did there. Like I said, they're trying to put in more facets of life so you can connect with the ranger of your choice and who's most relates to you. And I think adding those little those bits of character in there fit it very well, and I absolutely love that they did that. So full-on thumbs up for both those changes. I absolutely like that. But that's enough spoilers, so let's wrap this thing up. So yes, I fully enjoyed Power Rangers. I had a ton of fun with it. Me and Doug came out of this movie just like, yeah, that was great. It really takes, if you're a fan of it, it takes you really right back to, you know, 9 years old, getting your cereal and sitting in front of the TV Saturday morning watching Power Rangers. I think as a new person coming in, it's a good superhero story of a team coming together with their new powers and defeating evil. It's just done really well, and it ties into something I've always wanted to see, and I really like it. And that is just taking what the show did, but just slapping a veneer of serious on it. Not making a gritty reboot, but just, you know, scraping off some of the cheese and adding a veneer of serious. If you watch a lot of my comic book haul videos, I'm constantly praising Boom Studios' Power Ranger run right now because they've done that. They've taken the original story and add just a little bit more serious to it, but didn't shy away from the original source material. And I think this movie does that in a fantastic way. It's not just the nods, but just the love given to the original source material, but just giving it just a slight more serious, but not making it so gritty that it feels like a parody or feels like they hate the original source material. It's just, I can't praise it enough. This movie was so great. The fact that I named it my most anticipated movie of 2017 made me slightly nervous because previous winners of that, status was Age of Ultron and Suicide Squad, and obviously those didn't turn out as well. But I'm really glad this came out really, really good. I had a lot of fun with it. So obviously my rating, see this in theaters. You want to see it. I know people like, oh, Power Rangers. But no, Power Rangers. It's great. I had so much fun with this movie. I loved it. I just can't praise it enough. This is a great movie. Go in with an open mind and you'll love it. I'm Sexy Matt the Pharaoh Wizard. Until next time, hold on to your hold slots.